Hi, Tom again, TMB Tech. So by now, if you're watching, you've been watching time, you know I'm going on this quest to figure out how do I get a camera that works well in manual mode. Now, it's my goal to have a camera that works well for me. For you, you might have other goals. Right? I am not a pro photographer. I do not derive income, serious income or other, from my photography. It is a hobby. I use it to take pictures of kids and travel and events, and just whenever you're going to go, you want to grab a camera and you have an opportunity to take a great picture, but the most important thing is to get the shot, right? And for me, a small and light and compact kit is much more likely to be used than a big bulky heavy kit, first of all, but I still want to be able to shoot in manual mode when the opportunity arises. So I rented a 6400 that I was going to use as a proxy for a 6600, and I rented this Sony A7 III, and I went out and I tried them both. Now, Sony A7 III ergonomics are fantastic. I'm not going to lie. I think they're much better than any APS-C camera from Sony or anyone else. I love the front and rear dials, although they are dedicated. Front dial and rear dial are shutter or aperture or shutter speed only. Pick which one you want to be which. You can flip them, but that's all they do. But that's great. I mean, for me, for most photographers, I'm assuming the ergonomics are really, really good. So it's a score for the A7 III, but there are other issues that perhaps don't make this the best camera for me. And one of them is the sheer size and weight. You don't need to get this big G-Master lens on there, which I would never spend $2,300 for. We can talk about this lens versus other lens options for full frame Sony cameras. Never ever. It's huge. It's a beast. Works quite well. Uniform sharpness across the frame, but would never do that. But just the fact that it's full frame means you are going to get bigger glass. You know, you have to, right? And so for me, that coupled with the fact that the screen does not articulate up so you can see, so it's not really good. There's no benefit over a 6000 versus shooting videos. It does have mic input and headphone output, by the way, but it's just not perfect for shooting videos. It's not compact, it's not light. I might be more likely to leave it at home, right? And as we all know, the best camera you have is the one that's with you. So ergonomics, great. Usability from a portability and compactness standpoint, not as good, as something like this. So the problem was this camera, the A6000, sucks in manual mode. Quite frankly, it sucks because you need to control two variables. You need to have easy independent control of shutter speed and aperture, even if you're using auto ISO, right? You need it. And you've got one dial. And you've got this crapola thing on the back that they call a wheel, which is a piece of crap. I mean, don't use it. It's overloaded. You can push other buttons by accident, and then you're changing your drive mode, your exposure compensation, if it's possible to do that, your ISO. You can just mess with things, right? And you don't want to do that when you're trying to rapidly compose a shot and be creative and having fun with your camera. You don't be messing around with a stupid dial in the back. So I was stuck. I was like, okay, this one doesn't work. A7 III's, not to mention more expensive for the body, which I'll talk about bodies versus lenses later. It's big, so I'd rather have something small. So I was in a quandary until I discovered the My Dial function on the Sony A6400. It turns out that the Sony engineers are not quite as dumb as maybe some of us thought. They are listening and they are trying to figure out what to do, but their goal, I believe, is that this system is the small, compact kit. That's the design goal of this. And this one is the more, I'm a pro and I want the best, and I don't really care that much about size and weight because I need to have the absolute best. I'm deriving serious income from my photography, and I can't compromise on anything. and so I will compromise on size and weight in order to get what I believe to be the best possible options for quality, right? Opportunity to have quality shots, not quality shots, but the opportunity to have quality shots is what this thing would afford you. So that's the goal for this design. And for this one is, no, I absolutely want small and light, but the best quality I can get with small and light, right? So I believe they were listening, and they came up with this My Dial function, which not very many people talk about, which is, in my opinion, fantastic. It really is. It gives you the ability on the A6400, and I'm assuming the A6600 because it's newer, to take this one dial here, and repurpose it with the use of a custom button, like that button there or any other of the custom buttons, to one of at least 4 different functions if you want to. And for me, the ideal thing is I have aperture that I can control here in manual mode, and then I push this button, and then it becomes shutter speed. So I can have the camera the way I like to use it, no glasses, diopter adjustment properly, up against my eye, in sunlight or in dim light, doesn't matter because I got the eye cup on, and I'm in manual mode. I can adjust the aperture to where I want it to be. I push this button, and then suddenly I can adjust shutter speed. Boop, aperture, boop, shutter speed, boop, aperture, boop, shutter speed. I'm hardly moving anything. That's how you use the camera, so I don't have to go wiggling around in the back trying to mess with some control wheel and changing functions I don't really want to change. That is, I've used it over the past week with the 6400 that I'm filming on right now, and I can tell you it's a little tricky to set up. It's a little strange to understand how it works, but once you understand how it works, and I'll show you how to set up in a later video, it's fantastic, and it just makes the problem go away. I can now shoot in manual mode. I have one dial, and I don't need a front dial or a back dial. And then people are saying, well, you need to have extra dials. Well, you know what? You don't, because you are using a custom button, okay? One custom button to go, now I'm going to change that. And you can change it, you can have 4 functions on that one dial if you want. You could have aperture, shutter speed, ISO, exposure comp, or one of a bazillion other things, that you want to set that thing up for. To me, that's too complicated. But for a standard still shooter who wants a manual mode camera that's very flexible, very capable, very compact, and very light, this solves the problem. So Sony, thank you. I think this is fantastic. I don't think it's gotten nearly as much press as it needs to, because I don't think, most people pay attention to details. I don't think most people notice. And I think most people shoot in aperture priority mode or shutter priority mode, so this is kind of a moot argument for them. And to be honest with you, if you shoot in only aperture shutter priority mode, I don't understand why you care or give a rip about all these dials and settings on this camera, or all the dials on, I've seen people who have Fuji cameras, Fujifilm, X-T3. I love all the dials. How do you shoot? I just shoot aperture priority. Okay, why? You just like the way it looks. It's a toy that you're playing with. Okay, if you really want to use a camera as a tool and you want to use it in manual mode, you need to have a certain amount of control. And up until the A6400, these cameras didn't cut it. But now, thanks to Sony, they do. So thank you, Sony. I really appreciate it. And now you've solved my problem. So what I have decided to do is stick with APS-C. Not go to full frame, because I need something light, compact, and I'm actually willing to pay for that, believe it or not. It's not necessarily the cheapest solution, because making things smaller is more expensive sometimes than making the same functionality bigger. So I'll talk about that later, but for now, thank you, Sony, for the My Dial function, and I'll see you next time.